Last year, 41% of all code written globally was generated by AI. Not written by developers, generated by AI. And right now, a freight forwarder in Rotterdam is building their own coding tool. No dev team, no 200,000 software budget, just a person who knows exactly what they need. And a tool that writes the code for them. The question for every forwarder listening is, are you building or are you buying something that was never built for you?
Welcome to the Dogflow Dispatch. I'm Paulien Wannelstein, co-founder of Dogflow.
I'm Michiel Gabriels, I'm the SDR at Dogflow and the show's resident researcher.
Today, we're getting into something that's been on my mind for a while. That's that every freight forwarder is now facing a software question. And the question is, do you buy the standard TMS that sort of fits? Do you customize it? Or do you actually build your own? That used to be a question that only big players could seriously answer. And AI has really changed that. We've researched this, and here's what we found. Let's get into it.
Okay, let me start with the problem, because I think a lot of forwarders have normalized something they shouldn't have. Most DMS systems, the software freight forwarders use to manage their shipments, were built in the early 2000s, before the iPhone, before cloud computing was standard, and before anyone had heard of an API.
And people are still running on those systems?
Yes, and paying for them. We're talking 350 to 2,000 euros a month for mid-market tools, and then enterprise implementations like CargoWise tier, they often cost up to 3 to 5 times the advertised price once you factor in integrations and customizations.
Mm-hmm. And that multiplier catches people off guard every time. So a system gets quoted at 50,000 euros a year. By the time you've paid for integrations, consultants, and data migration, you're at 200,000 just before you've processed a single shipment.
And then you're locked in, because migrating away requires the same investment all over again.
So what are forwarders actually getting for that money?
Yep. So they get VPN dependencies, no live carrier data, manual re-entry across systems that don't talk to each other. And one article we read is a freight forwarder described a 3-day turnaround just to pull a report. 3 days.
That's not a software problem. That's a business problem wearing a software costume.
Right. And most forwarders accept it because they assume the alternative was hiring a development team, which is either impossible or really expensive.
And that's the assumption that we want to challenge today. But before we get to the alternative, I want to frame just where the industry is heading, because it changes what's actually on the table. So we use something called the AI transformation model, and there are 4 levels to it. And most freight forwarders, if I'm honest, they are stuck at level 1, maybe 2.
Explain those for people who haven't heard from us before.
So level 1 is AI as a thought partner, which means you're using Microsoft Excel. Level 1 is AI as a thought partner, which means you're using Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, or whatever you've got to think through a decision, draft an email, explore an idea. So it's useful, but nothing in your operation has actually changed workflow-wise. Then level 2. Level 2 is AI as an assistant. So that means you have specific tools that help with individual tasks. AI that summarizes a shipment update, a template that gets generated automatically. This means you're saving time.
That's where most people are at.
Yes, and they think they're doing AI, but really they're not. They're not really doing it. They've automated some friction, but it's different.
And what's level 3?
Level 3, that's where it gets really interesting. That's AI as teammates. Those are agents that run autonomously. So they actually do the task, flagging exceptions, updating systems, running checks. You monitor, they execute.
And level 4?
Level 4 is AI as the system itself. So the whole operation is structured around AI-run workflows. Custom tools are built specifically for your processes, and there are multi-agent pipelines. So in practice, For your FMS, that would mean it would become what we call headless. So there's no software dashboard for that your team logs into in the morning. The system runs the workflows, your team handles exceptions, handles strategy. The software itself is actually invisible infrastructure. So it's like electricity. You don't really think about it, it's just there. Yeah. And until very recently, getting to level 4 required a serious engineering team and a budget that really most freight forwarders didn't have. And that's changed. So that's what we're here to talk about.
One number from the research put this in context. Digital freight forwarding is growing at 18.8% per year, and the overall freight forwarding market at 5.7% per year. That gap is structural. It's not going to close.
Yeah, the companies that move into level 3 and level 4 are compounding an advantage every year. And the ones who stay at level 1 or 2, they're falling behind. So they're falling behind a little more every quarter. So here's what's actually changed. And I want to be specific about it.
Explain this like I'm a forwarder who's lost. Explain this like I'm a forwarder who lost thought about software in 2003.
Fair. So traditionally, building software meant writing code line by line. You needed someone who knew the language, knew the business. That meant hiring a developer or outsourcing or waiting 6 months for a feature. And that is what's changed. So AI can now write that code. You can describe what you want in plain language, and the AI generates it.
Is that the vibe coding things I keep seeing?
Exactly. So actually, the term vibe coding was coined by Andrej Karpathy. He's one of the researchers behind the original GPT, which was launched in February 2025. And he said, I just tell the AI what I want. I don't worry about whether the code is right. I just keep describing it until it works.
And then Collins Dictionary named it Word of the Year for 2025.
And that tells you a lot about how fast this spreads, even beyond tech circles.
Yes, and what can a non-technical person actually build with this today?
Quite a lot, if the scope is right. So a quoting tool that matches your exact pricing logic, for example, or a shipping line scorecard that your ops team has been doing in Excel anyway, a booking confirmation workflow, an internal KPI dashboard. These are all tools that are unique to how you operate. So no vendor is going to custom build them for you. They're also different for every forwarder, every company. So you build them yourself.
Okay, yeah. And how fast are we talking here?
For a scoped internal tool, that could be days to maybe weeks, not months to years. And it can be built by the person who actually has the problem. So it's not a developer who translates the requirements a couple of times and then in the end still gets it slightly wrong.
Yeah, that translation problem is real. I see it with customers. You describe what you need, the developer builds what they heard, and you go back and forth for weeks.
Right. So with these tools, the person who has the problem just solves it directly.
Okay. And what tools are people actually using for this?
If you're on a Microsoft stack, which I know a lot of our listeners are, you probably already have a Power Apps and Power Automate included in your Microsoft 365 license. So Power Apps lets you build internal tools without writing any code. Power Automate connects you to their existing systems. For anyone who just wants to go further than that with actual code, we recommend GitHub Copilot. That's Microsoft's AI coding assistant. It starts at 10 euros a month. You describe what you want, and it writes the code.
Compare that to a 2,000 euros a month for a TMS that doesn't really fit.
Exactly.
This connects to something the logistics industry has been moving towards for decades. It's not just an AI story.
It's the evolution of intermodal shipping to physical internet.
Exactly. So most forwarders know intermodal. It's one box, different transport modes, optimizing each leg separately. And then we have multimodal, one contract, many modes, optimizing the full door-to-door journey. That's where most operators are today.
And then comes synchromodal, which is dynamic mode switching. So real-time adaptive planning. You're not just booking the best route up front, but you're adjusting as conditions change. And that's AI as teammates kind of territory, level 3.
And then there's the physical internet, so freight routed the way data is routed, continuous, algorithmic, and optimizing the entire network, not just one shipment.
And that is only possible at level 4. So when AI is the system, when you've built the infrastructure that can respond in real time, reroute dynamically, and optimize across the whole network.
The forwarders renting generic software in 2026 are not going to have the infrastructure to play at that level.
Yeah, and that's the real stake of this conversation.
And I want to flag something here, because we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't say where this breaks.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a study from Meter published in 2025, rigorous, controlled. What they found is that experienced developers working on large, complex code bases were 19% slower with AI tools. Not faster, slower.
All right, slower.
Yes, so this is on complex existing code bases. And the AI doesn't know your code base. It makes plausible sounding suggestions that don't really fit. You spend more time reviewing bad code than you saved writing it. And there's also a security issue we found. So around 48% of AI generated code carries security vulnerabilities when tested carefully. We're taking seriously before you ship anything customer facing.
And we know that it's rapidly improving, of course, but it's also just important to have someone dealing with it who's really experienced at this and at a very senior level and really knows how to take that different angle to it and not just blindly accept everything.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the conclusion? Would it be to not use it?
Well, the conclusion is it works best for new scope tools. If you're building a fresh internal quoting dashboard, it's the right call. If you're trying to extend a 15-year-old enterprise TMS, you're going to have a bad time.
It's not magic. It's a tool that works in specific conditions. So your code base and your processes kind of need to be geared towards it. And it turns out that the sweet spot is exactly where many forwarders are actually right now, and it's exactly what they need, which is a focused internal tool which is built by someone who knows the problem from scratch. Bain ran research on this in 2025, and their finding was that AI paired with genuine process transformation produces 25 to 30% of productivity gains. Without the process transformation, so without actually rethinking how you work, you get 10 to 15%. So just the tool alone doesn't do it.
You still have to know what you're building and why.
So what do you actually do with this? Here's the practical part. And I don't want this to land as an interesting trend and then nothing changes. So takeaway 1 is audit your TMS honestly, not as a feature checklist, but look at where your team is doing manual re-entry, where they're copying and pasting between systems. Where does a report take days to produce? That's a tool problem you've been paying for.
Exactly. And I hear this from forwarders every week. They've accepted the friction and it's become invisible.
You get used to a slow tool the way that you get used to a squeaky door. But if you add up the hours across a team of 10 over a year, then you'd be shocked.
Yeah, so one case in the research stood out here. A forwarder won back a $25 million account. Not through a better shipping network and not through better rates. Through a digitized customer portal. The customer could track shipments, get reports, share data. That's it.
A level 2 move that actually unlocked a level 4 contract. So sometimes the gap between you and a competitor isn't operational capacity, but it's what the customer can see. Right, takeaway 2, that's to start with one scope tool, not a full platform, not a TMS replacement, just one thing that your ops team genuinely needs and doesn't have. Could be a quoting tool that matches how you actually price. a carrier scorecard, or an internal reporting dashboard that your ops lead has been begging for, or maybe a document routing workflow for customs prep.
Yeah, exactly. One tool, prove the concept internally, and then build the next one.
And I also want to be specific about what not to build. So don't try to build your own full container tracking system. That's a data infrastructure problem. You need hundreds of carrier integrations, years of training data for ETA predictions, real-time feeds from ports and terminals. That takes a specialized team years to get right. Takeaway 3, you don't need to hire a developer first. You need one person on your ops team who is curious enough to try. So if you're on Microsoft 365, you've already paid for Power Apps and Power Automate, give someone an afternoon. If they describe the problem clearly, something functional comes out.
The barrier here is mental. It's not technical anymore.
Mostly, yes. The technology exists. The cost is low. You just need someone willing to try before they're sure it'll work. And there's one thing that I keep coming back to, which is when you build your own tools, you own the data. When you run on a third-party TMS, the data model is theirs, and the analytics are built for the average use case. So when you build even something small, the data is yours, and you can connect it to anything. You can run your own models on it. Over time, that compounds, and Flexport is the extreme version of what that looks like at scale. Takeaway 4, think about data ownership from day one, even for a small tool. Where does the data live? Can you query it? Can you connect it to your next tool? That's actually why we built Stockflow the way we did. So your visibility data, your ETAs, your exception alerts, that's the kind of infrastructure that takes a specialized team to build and maintain. But the data it produces belongs to you. So you should be able to pull it into whatever you're building next. That's the model. Specialist platforms for the hard stuff and your own tools for anything that's unique to how you operate.
Yeah, for sure. And this is also where the 4-level model lands, I think. Most forwarders are at level 1 or 2, and the jump to level 4, AI as the system, sounds like a huge leap. But it's not one leap. It's a series of small ones. So you build one scope tool, you run it for 3 months, you learn, and you build the next one. At some point, you look up and your operation is running on software you built, data you own, and processes that actually match how you work.
The companies that started 2 years ago already started 2 years ahead. That gap doesn't shrink. Takeaway 5. The window, it's very wide open right now. So in 2 or 3 years, the forwarders who've been building will have heavy data assets. They'll have automation infrastructure. They'll have customer experience layers that are genuinely hard to replicate. And the cost of entry goes up every year that you wait. So this isn't about becoming a software company in the sense that you stop forwarding freight. It's about owning the infrastructure that runs your operation, not renting a version built for someone else.
That is the shift. Not do I need a developer? The question is, do I understand my own processes well enough to describe them? If yes, you can build. And every other tool you build is one step closer to the physical internet.
Okay, quick recap before we go. 1, audit where manual work and workarounds are costing you. Your TMS is probably not built for your workflow. Number 2, start with one scoped tool that your team actually needs. Just not a platform, just one thing. 3, the data you generate in the tools you build is yours. That advantage grows over time, so protect it from day one. If you want to see what specialist infrastructure side looks like, how Dockflow handles container visibility, ETA predictions, exceptions management, just so you can focus on building what's unique to you, book a demo at dockflow.com.
Or feel free to reach out to me. Thanks for listening to the Dockflow Dispatch, and see you next time.